What's up, guys? So we got some sports media news causing some stir, and this story involves ESPN's Mina Kimes, Stephen A. Smith, and Robert Griffin III. So recently, the issue of DEI has been in the news with the new administration as they begin to remove DEI policies from federal agencies as they felt DEI created division. For those of you who don't know what DEI stands for, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and is what many believe to be the forefront of this woke ideology plaguing America over the last few years. Basically, some saw it as a form of reverse racism as institutions, governments, schools, and corporations would implement these DEI practices in their hiring, which some felt was a target against other groups, particularly whites and Asians. Anyways, as President Trump's initiative to remove DEI began, there was a purge of all Department of Defense content, including articles, photos, and videos that promoted DEI. So during that purge, it appeared MLB legend Jackie Robinson's page got caught up in the net and was removed off the website on March 19th. After public outcry, the DoD restored Jackie Robinson's page the next day, but not before Mina Kimes went off on the Trump administration. Here's what she had to say that caused a lot of people to start demanding ESPN to fire her.
So ESPN and others reported today that the Department of Defense, amidst an ongoing effort to purge government mentions of diversity, equity, inclusion, removed the website honoring Jackie Robinson's military service. It has since been restored, and their spokesperson, the Pentagon press secretary, said this: we do not view or highlight people such as Robinson through the prism of immutable characteristics such as race, amongst other things. So, look, Jackie Robinson was known for many things, but above all, first and foremost, it was his ongoing courage in the face of racial discrimination. In fact, in addition to crossing the color barrier in baseball, he served in a segregated unit in the Army and in one instance refused to move to the back of the bus, was arrested and acquitted. That matters. That history cannot be erased, it cannot be undone, and it must be recognized to fully understand and celebrate his legacy.
Thanks, Mina.
So after this clip, calls were made for Mina Kimes' firing for bringing politics into sports. Honestly, I understand where people are coming from, but let's be clear. People just don't like her politics and don't want to hear her talking about it on ESPN. Mina has a history of doing this, particularly with the whole Aaron Rodgers vaccine stance and the Pfizer vaccine when she went off on those who refused to take the vax. But you know what's funny? She dabbles into politics, but how come no one from ESPN outside of Sage Steele and Sam Ponder has spoken about men in women's sports? Oh, that's one political discussion no one in the network wants to touch, even when most of the women at ESPN are probably in the feminist movement and preach women's rights, but has any of them ever talked about this? Because this topic actually brings sports and politics together. They had a whole lot to say about Harrison Butker's speech about his wife and the role of women in society, but are often pretty quiet about this one topic. Go figure. Anyways, RGIII, who was let go by ESPN last year, decided to chime in on this topic and tweeted this out to my surprise. He tweeted, "Sports shows on TV should be about sports, not politics." So this tweet obviously caused up a stir as many felt it was directed at ESPN and Mina Kimes. Anyways, the Trump administration actually came out publicly and said that this was an accident and was done by human error, so I don't even know why Mina even bothered bringing this up, because when she did, the website was already restored and they addressed the mistake. Nonetheless, Stephen A. Smith chimed in on this issue and he went pretty visceral at Trump, calling him out on his DEI pushback. Have a listen.
Was reinstated, and nobody is calling out the president, Donald Trump. I will. And I'm not going to call him names and all of this stuff like stupid folks on the left doing, engaging in incendiary rhetoric. It's unnecessary, it's immature, and it's uncalled for. He's the president of the United States. Treat him with the respect that he deserves, but in the same breath, call him to the carpet for stuff that he's doing. This is the same Donald Trump that looked at folks during the campaign in 2015 and 2024. And he said, what do you got to lose? Okay, well, guess what? He won the popular vote. He won the electoral college vote. He won every swing state, okay? And in the process, his numbers improved from 2020 to 2024 with young blacks, young Hispanics, okay, and young voters, with blacks, Hispanics, and young voters overall. You're forgetting about those people now that you're in office, President Trump? They don't matter now? History doesn't matter? The iniquities of this country didn't matter? The insidious behavior and actions from an historical perspective, oh, we want to ignore all of that? It doesn't go down like that. You know, many people on the left and I'm disgusted with them and what they've done. They lost this election, okay? And they have nobody but themselves to blame because they prioritized things they didn't need to prioritize. But even in the midst of saying all of that, one has to acknowledge that when you look at the actions of this administration and you're talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you're equating that with black people, and you're using words like unqualified. Remember, he blamed DEI when a plane crashed in the immediate aftermath of the plane crash in D.C., colliding with the helicopter where lives were lost. The first words that came out of President Trump's mouth was DEI. What evidence do you have, President Trump? He had none. Admitted he had none, but still lent itself to DEI. Pete Hegseth is the head of the Defense Department. He has served our country with honor. I am not trying to knock him or denigrate him in any way. We got to root for our elected politicians or the people that they assign to departments and wish them nothing but the best in America's best interest. But the fact of the matter is, how is he not DEI? He was a soldier. And then he was a host on Fox News on the weekends. And he goes from that to being the head of a Defense Department that oversees more than 3.5 million people. How in the hell do you go from being a weekend host to being the head of over 3.5 million people for the Defense Department of the United States? He happens to be white. And we don't mention DEI when it comes to him. Why not? The biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action and DEI, some would argue, are white women. How come we don't mention that? Why is it always attached to black people? This is the kind of stuff that we're asking ourselves. And on a day like today, it gives us more credence to ask that question because of what happened with Jackie Robinson, who served in our military, drafted, served our country, and for hours upon hours in a day, his stuff was scrubbed, and we're supposed to believe that's accidental. We were born at night, Molly. Some of us anyway, not last night.
I'm sure you'll have more on this on